This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host of the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And I am so excited to welcome to our global community today somebody that I've had the absolute honour and privilege to get to know both on and offline, I suppose you could say, in real life. Somebody who I think you're going to really want to get to know if you're a leader listening or if you're a recruiter indeed starting out. I think there's a lot of lessons that we're going to learn from today's guest. So without further ado, this is Kate Cross, and she is the co-founder of recruitment specialist Harvey Jacob. Welcome to you today, Kate. How are you?
I'm really well. What a lovely introduction. I'm very flattered, and it's really, really nice to be here. We've been chatting about this for a while, so thank you for having me.
We have indeed. And for anyone who is actually listening rather than watching, we've actually matched. We're kind of both going for the white. We're actually recording this in autumn. It's actually it's got a nice sunny vibe to it today. So there'll be plenty of people clicking on. If you're on LinkedIn, you might have actually seen Kate because, you know, with algorithms, I think our communities tend to collide. But tell us who you are and what you do.
So I'm Kate Cross, co-founder of Harvey Jacob, which is a specialist construction recruiter. We have been going for 17 years, husband and wife team. I think we're going to talk a bit about that later. And very excited to be launching Coral. Coral Coached is our new business, which is a really cool product that we've put together. We've just downloaded 25 years each of contract recruitment and run it through a coach's filter, and we're going to be helping other businesses do what we've done.
That is very, and we're definitely going to come on and talk about that. So just talk a little bit about, I mean, you've alluded to it, we are going to come on to it. So yourself and Simon, I think, worked together previously. That's how you met before you set up.
Yeah, we did. We met Christmas 2003 at a Christmas conference, a work Christmas conference, and I happened to be sat next to this larger than life character, and he was opening all this champagne up, and I remember thinking, God, who is this? Anyway, I latterly found out H Champagne was getting rid of the stuff, and we then it got together shortly after that and have been together ever since. So met at work, have lived and worked together for the last, we passed our 20 mark anniversary in February, so officially did the life sentence this year in recruitment and life.
Quite literally in both recruitment and in marriage as well. So congratulations to you and Simon, and we are really excited to we are going to come back to that in the conversation, and there might be a few little revelations about me and my past as well, actually, which you might not know either. So we'll come on to that. So the business that you have obviously had for 17 years, congratulations, that's no news. You specialize within quite a specific field. And just to be clear, your business is contract rather than perm.
Yeah. So
is there a particular reason that you've only ever done contract? Just talk us through. I guess what I'm trying to understand is from those listening who maybe are currently a perm provider. At what point maybe did you decide to just focus on contracts, or do you just talk us through, I guess, the way your market works and operates?
Sure. The reason contract is because we're contract recruiters. So we worked for a really cool company that Simon was running their freelance division in their London office. I was working in their Southampton office running a contract desk. We went out to Sydney. He set up a contract division for business out there. I was running an RPO, so again, very contract heavy. When we came back to the UK in 2007, it was just, that's what we did. And there wasn't a big supply chain to the industry, there wasn't loads of back office, but for us it was just, that's what we do, that's who we are. There wasn't another option. So we set up 100% contract, and we ran at 100% contract through to 2018. We started to do a bit of perm, but our perm business is really consequential. It's because our clients are our candidates. We know people, we move them around, but we never chase perm. We are I would say now we're 75% split perm to contract, but contract's our baby. That's what we do. We'll never drop it. It's served us brilliantly, and we just love it.
Clearly it's a very accomplished business model. And what are the key pillars, I suppose, if we've got somebody listening now who may be starting out their recruitment career and they're kind of at that point of, do I become a perm recruiter or contract recruiter? What are the foundations for being a good contract recruiter, first of all?
there's a real difference between contract and perm. So contract, we call it the hunter-gatherer. So in perm, you are gathering vacancies, you are gathering candidates, and that's your route to market. In contract, you're hunting. So I can't tell you how many times I will hear clients aren't hiring contract. There's no temp in my marketplace. I'm phoning my clients and all I'm getting is perm vacancies. And what I always say is you're asking the wrong questions. You don't ask, have you got any vacancies? You ask questions like, what happens when that project kicks off and you don't have a permanent individual in place? What happens when, I'm giving away all the secrets here, but it's what happens when someone goes off? Okay, so I had it really recently. Someone went off on mat leave 3 months earlier than predicted because she had a premature pregnancy. What happens when someone goes off on long-term sick and you've got, so it's asking those questions, because if you ask what requirements do you have, you'll get all their permanent vacancies, which is brilliant for your perm team. But if your contract, you're after those opportunities. So that is the key difference. The hunter over the gatherer. The speed of contract, I think the stats are the average contract vacancy sits on the market for 2 to 4 hours. Realistically, I think you've normally got a 24-hour turnaround, but that's if you've got really good relationships. But it's really quick. You pull the vacancy, you fill the vacancy.
So that means you would need to know who the contractors are. So I think
really, really key.
Market and who's available.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're speaking to your contractors every week. There's a saying, I don't know if you've heard this one, that perm is a love affair and contract is a marriage, because you're speaking to your candidates all the time, regardless of whether they're working for you, because the minute your client phones you and says, I've got an emergency, you need to be able to fill that need immediately.
Does that make temp a one night stand?
Ooh, I've never thought of it like that. Maybe.
You were going to go with that.
Multiple one night stands. Anyway, we could go where
there are plenty of recruiters who don't think it's a love affair. Let me tell you. I'm only joking. I love the analogy. I like anything where there's a dating analogy. And from that perspective, I think if you've got that one listener now, and we always say that one listener who is at that point where maybe they're dual desking, which I think is a really challenging job to do, or maybe they are quite new. We get a lot of new recruiters who like to listen because they're trying to learn everything from experts like yourself. I think identifying that skill set and identifying that pace, I would say, having worked alongside, I've never been a contract recruiter myself, I've only ever done perm, but looking at some of the people that I've placed, I do think it's the commerciality, it's the negotiation skills as well, being able to, be insightful and just be one step ahead. And I think, what you said at the very start of that, I mean, that's applicable to any kind of recruitment, asking the right questions. Yeah. Not just going off a script. I think that's the key element to it. So I think that's really insightful. So you've launched this new consultancy, which it's very exciting, because I know this is really hot off the press as we record this today. Literally. So how did this, just let's go back a step on this from your internal perspective. How has this come about?
It came about because I'll share a little bit of my personal journey. So Harvey Jacob is a very mature business, and I have always been very active in it. In 2018, we had a larger team. We were a team of 10, and it was a true lifestyle business where there was a great team and everything was going brilliantly. And then we had a clash at leadership level, a husband and wife team. And I took a breather from the business to say, listen, at the end of the day, we can grow another business, but our marriage is more important at this point, and I'm just gonna have a breather and refocus. And that little breather turned into a more of an extended absence from the business, on a day-to-day level. And a long story short, my dad was very poorly. He was dying of cancer. Simon and I were at leadership conflict. I had a son that only had 3 years left before big school. And I just went, I'm going to just take some time for me. I've been on this massive career path and trajectory. So what was supposed to be a year's break with COVID and everything else turned into a bit more of an extended leave. And last year I came back in full time with the full intention that we were going to go back to our team with all the learnings we've had over the years, and that's what we were going to do. We were going to do white collar construction. We were launching in the States. We were going to grow our contract book out. And I just all of a sudden had this moment of, I don't know if I want another baby. I would quite like grandchildren. And wouldn't it be really cool if we took everything that we've learned over 17 years in business, in life, in marriage, in business, this huge backstory that I've got with coaching and my own personal well-being, and I went, wouldn't it be really cool if we could create something that replicates what we've learned and give it to people who are 10 years behind us? And I'll have grandkids and I'll help and nurture. And I don't want to just coach. I want to be in their businesses, holding their hands. But at the end of the day, it's their baby and I'm going to hand it back to them. So that is what we did. And we literally sat there and went, if we were starting from day one again in our 100% contract business, how did we do it? And we just mapped it all out. And it's really cool. And we got to the point where I was about to go out and just coach this myself. I'm a qualified coach, but I realized that coaching and training is an art form. Leading a business is a skill set. Recruiting contractors is a skill set. And what we needed was someone who was a really, really good coach. And I happened to phone up the trainer and coach that had trained Simon and I way back when. And I caught her at a moment that she was ready to be part of her next venture, and so she joined the team, and yeah, we're all very excited about it. I could go on forever, but yeah, I think that pretty much gives you our origin story.
It does. And first of all, I'm so sorry about your dad, and thank you for sharing some personal stuff with us. And there will be plenty of parents listening who maybe gone through a similar, you've got this dilemma, you've got this conflict of your careers going one way and life's happening on the other side. And I think that will really resonate with somebody that sometimes you have to just take a moment and take stock of what actually really matters to you.
Yeah, I mean, business is brilliant, and I love it. I'm back full energized, but I've got a 16-year-old who is basically got to the point where I was a very, very underpaid taxi service. But in the years when he was little, he was my priority, and the marriage was my priority, and businesses and careers, there's no age limit on it, and there's no right times or wrong times. And I think everyone has to be, we see a lot on media and about big billers and high growth businesses, and realistically you've got to meet yourself where you're at that time. And as a mum, like, your kids are so, like, you get, is it like they say 16 summers or something like that?
It does. I mean, my daughters, as you know, are a little bit older than your son, but I think, whether you're a caregiver, whether it's you don't have children, but maybe you've got elderly parents, or you've got other responsibilities, friends, maybe you've got, animal responsibilities. I think that we are at a point in time now as human beings where actually talking about this is really important, especially in an industry which is synonymous with high performance. That doesn't mean at the detriment of what actually really matters to us as people. We can actually, I'm not saying we can have it all, everything can, we can have it all. What I'm saying,
when you figure that out, let me know, because
I haven't yet figured that out, I have to say. So sorry, let me just pause. Can you hear that of what it alludes to? But I think it's so important to hear leaders like yourself sharing that vulnerability and being open and honest. And it hasn't actually taken anything away from your journey, but actually it's added to it, and it's given you that impetus and that human element, so that when you're coaching leaders that will come on to those future contract leaders that you're obviously attracting to your coaching business now, you can still have those conversations and understand that we've all got limitations as human beings, but that's not a weakness. That's actually what makes us who we are. And I think that's a really important thing to hear from somebody like yourself. So the core elements to those who are either already going through your coaching, or those who are listening now that are perm heavy, which rec to rec is one of them. What are the core elements to running a successful contract recruitment business?
Okay, so I just want to demystify the whole thing to start with. in that if you've got a successful perm business, I know rec to rec is different. I'm sure we'll figure it out. There's definitely temp interim contract in there. But if you've got a really robust perm business, you are in such a fortunate position, because everything that we initially coach you to do is leverage what you've got, have the conversations you've been having every day, but just throw in some tweaks and differences. So don't stress about the fact that you haven't got it in your business. Use your perm as a base. Really make sure you've got a robust back office and ops. And again, I think that feels like such a overwhelming experience for a perm business, but it's actually really easy to break it down. But you do need back office, so you need to be able to pay your temps, and you need to make sure you're going to get paid by your clients, and you need to de-risk your business. And I think it's a really straightforward process. It takes you about half an hour a week just to stay on top of that, and you can outsource. There's so many cool outsourcing companies now. Like I cannot believe, like in 2007 when we set the business up, I think there was one back office provider and 2 CRMs, and now there's just all these really cool solutions that you can outsource everything. You can outsource bits, but you do need that. The last thing you want to do is pull a vacancy, fill it, and then not be able to facilitate it. So get that in place before you start. Use your perm business as leverage.
Do you think that there are, just thinking out loud here, are there indicators that are really screamingly obvious that we can do that as perm recruiters, i.e. clients have got vacancies open for a long period of time? Presumably, if you've taken on a vacancy and it's, an FD, it could be a recruitment director. At what point should we be saying, right, well, we can't find a perm solution, so you need to think about an interim solution? But do we need the candidates ready before?
Well, I think also as well is just so you've got opportunities whereby we spoke about individuals that are maybe taking time out to caregive, these really overqualified individuals, and to be able to put you might have a very senior ops manager that is taking 6 months out to do a personal project, but actually do want to keep in, that is happy to come in and run your credit control department, and so 6 months interim solutions like that. So redistributing talent into roles and is a really, really good route to market. When we went out to Sydney in 2004, we were told there is not a big contract recruitment market for white collar construction in Sydney. And there was a guy at one of the big recruiters, he had a few contractors out, and Simon just went in and he went, right, where are the opportunities? Where are the projects that are 6-month projects and they're out? So he sort of found out who was doing at that time, when you still had high street banks. Bank fit outs were a big contract market in the UK, and he just went into Sydney and went, listen, if I can provide you this talent for 6 months and then you don't need to carry that overhead past your project, are you interested? And within 18 months, he's going to kill me, but in 18 months he'd taken a marketplace that most businesses had 5 or 6 contracts out to a 70 strong white collar constructors. He was billing personally over 100,000 Aussie dollars a month. Wow. And that was from a marketplace that said we don't use contracts. So it's the ultimate solution sell. Contract is. It
really is. I mean, that's mind-blowing, because even as I'm talking to you now, I'm actually quite ashamed that I flippantly said, rec to rec. I think I've said it to you before, but rec to rec isn't conducive to contract, but actually it probably is. I think the reason I've had the knockback and the rebuffal, I don't know if this is specific, is because of the confidentiality aspect, because recruitment leaders are quite, I don't want to say the word guarded, because we are both recruitment leaders, but there's a lot of commercially sensitive information. That's why people, you could sign an NDA. You could have somebody go in that's maybe, it's particularly recruitment directors that get to a certain level that have got so much they can leverage. That would be an amazing person to bring into a business as a sales manager. So thinking out loud.
And the ops teams, I mean, there's so much, I think, we spoke recently, I need some support ops wise. There's so much opportunity there. And I wonder if we're moving to a time, I might be forward ahead of the curve here, but there's so much data in the world and there's so much AI capability in the world that guarding our data, it's so easy to get a hold of data these days. It's about those relationships and the human connections that you've got. So I would say,
I'm making an action point, Kate. I'm going to come back to you on this. Now, I want to go back to the very start of this conversation.
okay.
And I don't know whether you know this about me, but the father of my daughters and I met in recruitment as well. And it sounds like it's an interesting dynamic because, or slightly different, because he was more senior to me. He wasn't my mum. He was more senior to me, and he was we called them vacancy controllers in prime time. So he was the out and out business developer, and I was the out and out headhunter. So we were kind of plugged together, and we worked together for 3 years. I was actually married to somebody else, not for the whole 3 years, but I was in a relationship with someone else. So we became like best friends because he had to trust me on who I was headhunting for his roles. Trust him that if that was 30% agreed and it was retained and I had time slots, I had to fill them. And we built up such a trust together that we inevitably did get, I have to say, by this point, my marriage was well and truly over, and he was very supportive during my divorce. And then we did inevitably actually hook up. So it's really interesting because we'd work together for a very brief period of time as a man and wife, and then he went brewery, and we were together 18 years before we split up, and we split up for very different reasons. But I can see why it worked very well, but there are also limitations. So talk to me about what's made it successful with you and Simon. I might ask him.
And I'm not going to say this to the public. It's quite expensive to get divorced when you own a company together. No,
let me tell you, I had to buy him out my own business, and he separated.
Honestly, family has always come first. The business facilitates our lifestyle. It's rightly or wrongly, our marriage has always come first, and our son, I'm gonna get really emotional. Oh my god. Jacob, so we say it out loud, Jacob, our son, he is our absolute world, and our family unit, and Team Cross comes above anything else in our world. And we would have had a much bigger agency. I'm not sure we'd still be Team Cross if that's the route that we'd taken. We may still be business partners, but we wouldn't have been life partners. An awful lot of patience, understanding our roles. Simon is the typical principal biller profile, and I'm a typical CEO. I'm all about the team. I'm all about the culture. I'm all about the people. He's all about his desk, which is why he's such a prolific biller. And we weren't learning to be mature around that and respect each other's lanes and know when the other is in their zone of genius and not reacting to it. An awful lot of coaching. awful lot of coaching. We've both done an awful lot of work on our own personal development.
Right. I was going to say,
not actually. We did some marriage academy back in the early days. It was really tough. We moved back from Sydney in 2007, March 2007. We set the business up literally on a shoebox in my mum and dad's dining room. We were getting married in September, and we were buying a house. And we literally set the business up, got married, bought a house. And then when Simon, I remember it distinctly, Simon was driving down the motorway back from a client visit, and he said, "You haven't had your period." And I was like, oh my God. Literally, so in the September, found out I was pregnant with Jacob.
Oh my God.
So we literally just did this whole thing. And so then 2 years after that, we did another thing. We bought a full refurb project on a house. So we had this baby business, actual toddler house, and we did end up in marriage coaching after that.
He's on their own is enough to send a lot of people. So congratulations that you worked through it, and congratulations that Simon was that aware of you and your cycle. I mean, he needs to
I don't know, he had a moment of awareness. It was mad. I mean, the exact words were not, "Oh, brilliant." It was, "Oh, shit." Anyway, it was there would have never been a right time, and he was our absolute miracle baby, and so it all worked out. And latterly, whenever we feel that we need it, we check in to our own personal development, and we realize the patterns. And I'll say to him, "You're doing that thing, you need to do your inner work. When was the last time you did a meditation?" And he'll say to me, he calls it my wild Labrador eyes, when I'm all ideas and this energy going, so you're doing the thing, you need to just recalibrate your energy. So being able to listen to one another and be prepared to accept constructive criticism is the wrong word, but
Feedback.
holding each other accountable to our own personal development.
Yeah, because you're equally important, and you separated and defined and set boundaries around your personal and your professional capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because there will be people listening that maybe either are already in a relationship or maybe embark on a relationship, because ultimately it's very hard to meet people these days. So it's very possible that that's where you'll meet your future interest. But actually there are other relationships, and I think people can learn from that, even if it is just a neutral colleague. It's important to set boundaries, and I think, do people have enough conversations around those expectations and check in? I think that's the thing I'm taking away from this. That continuous checking in to ensure that it's healthy and that neither person is left feeling that they're being granted, or that they're being abused in some way, emotionally or otherwise.
It is, I mean, it's when you've got two big characters, there is the capacity to bulldoze over each other is there. I think, the other thing that we've been very, very mindful as we launch Coral is that we've made a strategic hire at board level into the business, with someone we know, we trust. There's an awful lot of mutual respect between the three of us, and we agreed up front that board hire was never there to sit between Simon and I, but actually what it did was make us a leadership team, not husband and wife business. And it did, full disclosure, it felt, I wasn't scared, because we've got the confidence of 17 years in business, but it felt carrying a board level salary for the first time and not recruiting trainee up was quite a leap. But it's been the best decision. And I would say to anybody considering growing their business, either outsource some senior leadership or hire in, or outsource until you're comfortable and hire in. But having a robust leadership team to build from has been absolutely a game changer in our new venture.
And what a fantastic way to finish this podcast. There's been so many things that I think are really relevant and applicable to so many people who are listening at whatever stage they're at in their career. Thank you so much. I mean, you're so passionate and open and emotional, which is good, because I think so often when people go on podcasts, I listen to so many podcasts, there's almost a little bit of guardedness, and I knew you would never be like that, and I'm really grateful to you so much. And
my pleasure.
Make sure we share all the links, so if anybody is interested, that they can get in touch regarding, obviously, Harvey Jacob, if they're in that sector, but also on the coaching side, because I think there's going to be a lot of people, and because of the way you've set it up, they could be based anywhere, literally, because I got
100%.
So we'll get them to mention the podcast. Kate, thank you
so
much for joining us on the Recruitment podcast.
Thanks for having me.